Hey guys, Dwayne here. I had a viewer who recommended an idea to talk about, so I am going to do that today. And what they asked me to talk about was how to cope and outsmart a narcissist whenever you're talking or dealing with it in the concept of parenting with a narcissist and divorcing a narcissist. So I'm going to go over a few key points that I think you really need to remember and think about right off the bat that will be really important as you're going through this to mold your thinking so that you are approaching this in the best way for you to cope with it. And towards the end of it, I'll talk about ways to actually outsmart the narcissist and how you can use some of their issues to your advantage potentially when going through this. So the first number one thing is you have to remember and remind yourself they don't think and feel the same way that you and I do. They approach things completely different. Their thought process is completely screwed. If you try to use your logic, your reasoning, and project it, well, basically to project that onto them, you will be, and you probably already have been, significantly and severely disappointed and frustrated with everything that you're doing and dealing with them. The second thing you have to realize and accept, they are not motivated by the same goals that you and I are. I mean, it's the same thing. It's similar to them not thinking the same. But what I mean by that is they are not motivated to focus on the best interest of your kids. That's not what they're really looking at. Their main motivation, in my opinion, is to try to get continued narcissistic supply from you. And they do, and when there's kids involved, they can do that more readily by utilizing the kids as weapons in that process. And you're probably already experiencing this already. And you also have realized that there's really not much you can do for it. And this is why the person had asked the question. But it's important to just reiterate that so that you, I mean, I know I've said it before, but just to really push that point home. Okay, so the third thing is that they only think about themselves and their interests. So they're not going to think about yours and your interests or concerns. They're not going to think about your kids. It is solely going to be focused on what they want. And that is basically their number one goal is getting narcissistic supply. That's the reason why the smear campaign goes on, right? That's the reason why you have basically this process underway to play them as a victim, to get people to feel sorry for them, to basically fill that supply, continued supply, and they're going to use you to do that, right? They're going to use you to try to facilitate that and to get other people to feel like they're the victim and they were wronged in this and poor me and stuff like that. Okay, so this is where we roll into, okay, so how do you cope with it and how does that coping ultimately help you outsmart the narcissist? Now, some of this stuff I'm going to talk about has already been talked about, but you need to take a step back and think about it in the concept of dealing with your kids, right? And some of this is going to be a little tough because it's going to really irritate you, right? You're already frustrated that things are going the way they're going, and the fact that they're getting away with it, right? They get away with this stuff. But here's the thing: the reason that they get away with it is you let them see that it is actually affecting you. It's impacting you. It's making you mad. It's making you frustrated. You're sending those flamer emails or those text messages, or you're having those conversations. You're giving them your attention. That is the number one, in my opinion, the number one problem that you have with it, because if you've already gone through this and you can already attest to the fact that nothing good comes from it. Nothing good comes from it. Every time you do it, all it does is start a back and forth circular loop where nothing is really accomplished until one of you stops talking. Typically on the narcissist side, this is what will happen. You will try to push back. They'll go tit for tat. I don't know if I'm using the right term. And then they'll stop. Then they'll just basically they'll go no contact with you. But it's a different thing, right? They've got their supply. You've interacted with them. They feel like, okay, I've got what I needed, so I don't need to do it anymore. So the number one thing is you can't let them know how this is affecting you. And that's tough, right? And that doesn't necessarily, okay. And that rolls into the next thing, which is the basically perfecting the gray rock technique and the hybrid no contact that I've talked about before, where you're basically minimizing that contact as minimal as possible and only doing the absolute bare minimum you need to communicate because of the fact you have kids with them. The gray rock is important because it's similar in a normal non-kid relationship where, when you gray rock a narcissist, they get bored and they move on. Similarly, easy for me to say, that happens when your kids are involved too. It's tougher because they're using your kids as weapons, right? So you feel like you have to engage, but there's a balance there. And what you need to do is you need to use that gray rock technique coupled with a hybrid no contact to where you really minimize your impact. And when things are happening and you should be getting pissed off, you don't interact with them, even if it's something you have to go to court with. And I had something recently or in the last couple of years that I had to do this. And I reached out at one point trying to think, and this is before I really knew a lot of what was going on, trying to think that, this is stupid. We shouldn't be doing this. And I tried to reach out. And in retrospect, all I did was give her a victory. And I replied, I interacted with her and gave her supply. And do you think she ever answered me? Nope. Do you think I had to actually continue on paying an attorney to get things resolved? Absolutely. That's where it rolls into the next key. You stop those stupid little communications. You don't give them that narcissistic supply that they're trying to get. And if you have to, I'm not saying that you just let things go. If it rolls into the fact where you ultimately have to utilize legal services, you do that. And you just don't talk to them. And if it gets to the point where they are trying to talk to you, just say, talk to the attorney. Just if you have attorneys. If you don't have attorneys, then obviously that complicates it. But just go through it that way. And don't let them see you get upset. Don't let them see you get irritated. Don't get irritated and upset around the kids so that they can go back and tell her. That's the key. You're basically trying to take the oxygen out of the fire, and ultimately they will find something else to do. Now, that doesn't mean it's easy. That doesn't mean that you do this technique and boom, they just automatically just go, okay, well, I'm bored with you, so I go on to the next thing. Guys, that's not how it works. It's not that easy, right? They're going to continue to poke you in the eye, try to push your buttons, and do everything they can to rile you up. You just can't respond. Every time you respond, you give them a boost to continue this whole thing. Okay, so the next thing the next thing you can do to really expand upon this is, so you've come up with a solution to where you're minimizing the impact, you're doing the gray rock, and you're doing the hybrid no contact. I don't even know if anyone else uses that. That's kind of a term I think I coined up. If, however, you guys have heard it someplace else and I pilfered it from somebody that I don't know about, hey, let me know in the comments below because I haven't seen that term before. Anyways, so the thing is that once you're doing that, so you're going to minimize that and minimize your contact with them, and they should, after a period of time, start slowing down. The next thing you do is you continue to build your relationship with your kids. You keep focusing on that. You keep making that better. You keep making sure that all the lies and everything that are going on, that you're not doing anything to perpetuate that, or to have your kids think, oh, okay, well, mommy said or daddy said X, and wow, they're doing that, right? If you know this is where if you kind of know what they're talking about, it helps you because you can make sure that you don't do it. And if you are doing something, you can have a conversation with your kids and say, hey, you know what? I've recognized that I did this in the past and I'm not really happy with it. And I'm not really proud of it. And it's something I don't want to do anymore. So I'm going to work really hard to stop doing that. And if I am doing that, please have a conversation with me to remind me so we can talk about it. Keep those lines of communication. Now, see, if you do all that, that's where you're outsmarting and you're getting the upper hand on your narcissist, and these techniques will help you cope with it when you're in the middle of it, or at the beginning stages of it, and you're going through the really negative parts, the parts where you're really frustrated and you feel like you're being manipulated and abused, which you are being manipulated and abused. Okay, so I hope that wraps it up. I'm gonna run this up or close this thing up. If you have some other techniques that you've utilized to help you get through this, leave them in the comments below. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you disliked this video, give it a thumbs down. And if you like the channel, subscribe. And I hope that this topic, I helped you out. I mean, not helped you out, but I hope it helped a little bit. And I will talk to you guys in the next video. So take care. Bye.